So tell us what group you were in and like what your group specifically did on the project.
Well, I was dealing with Group 4. We were doing the project in association with Clapton Rangers Football Club, and our approach was to kind of have a look at the club itself and find out its relationship with the marsh and surrounding areas. We created 3 hypotheses dealing with the club, appropriation, use of the marsh and all that good stuff, and our findings came through interviews, structured and also semi-structured interviews. We did some mapping, we did a lot of reading, obviously, a lot of background research from Hackney, what's going on in there, a lot of stuff on the Olympics, linking it with Olympic legacy, Tessa Jowell.
So what was your key finding about the Clapton Rangers Football Club?
Key finding was that the football club in itself is a fantastic place for the youth in that area to have access to the marsh. We found that there's a lot of lower income people living in there who would not necessarily have access to the marsh, or mostly from an economic point of view and a time point of view as well, single parent families who don't have the time to take their kids out to the marshes. So what Clapton Rangers provides is a platform for these kids through football to have access to the marshes, and not just to play the football but also as a recreational release and to stop them from joining other groups such as gangs. They also provide a fantastic library facility which is growing as we speak, and also access to they're dealing with parent groups and various other, and trying to create various other synergies as well.
The fight for me is an ongoing thing, and what the corner I've chosen to fight is really the blue space, because there's a lot of tension focused on the green space, and it's very interesting that while I've been arguing that people need for their mental and spiritual well-being these wide open horizons, and once that's gone, it's gone. The government's just announced a 10-year plan to combat, to fight against depression in adults by improving the emotional well-being of children through various new kinds of activities in schools, and they call this new programme Horizons.
With the Hackney Marshes Youth Group, we do a lot of work on the marshes, and we have tended to be, in the last few years, more concentrated down in that corner of the southeast bit of the marshes. And it was interesting seeing with some of the presentations how people use the other end and south end and no-go area, and all these different perceptions, and it really highlights how there are like lots of levels of use. It's like we're all living in different dimensions. Different people use the marshes in their own way and have their own perceptions about it based on their use. And yeah, I think we just got to all learn about how different people see it, because that's where conflicts come, because there's very different ways of seeing things.
So I just wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what it's been like talking with the students or working with the students, and kind of what you hope to see in the presentation today.
Well, it's been very interesting because they've come with a fresh outlook on the marshes, because some people don't know it. So it's quite interesting for us to talk about it and actually explain to people, because we do, you can take these places for granted when you are very familiar with them. And I know that just from talking to people, and during the course of our conversations, people have asked interesting questions and have come up with ideas about how about the area, which is just very refreshing. So I think they can have a very good outlook, and hopefully there'll be ideas, and it'll tell us things that we don't know, basically.
Okay, well, it was really interesting working with the students. I didn't know what to expect as an output, even to this presentation, but I'm really impressed. I feel amazed. As for the leaflet, it's going to be really useful to me, mainly because when we're working in the organisation, we're always looking down and across and firefighting, and this leaflet has just come like ping, you know, and it's something that we can use and give out to people, and it's going to be really useful, and it kind of sets things kind of clear for us, like we couldn't have said it better if we tried, you know, so it's really brilliant, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I thought the students were very knowledgeable. They'd obviously done a lot of work and a lot of research into the area and the subjects they were covering. I was particularly interested in the idea of the playbook that they presented at the end as a way of trying to inform people perhaps of not only the importance of play in children's lives, but also how there are many restrictions on children growing up in today's society. So I might even get involved in that if I can.
I've been very interested in the process of this whole exercise, and it makes me realise how complex the planning and consultation process is. Coming from a community development role, I've come from the bottom up, and so I'm aware of helping people, local people, get their voice heard in a planning process. And what I see from this is that actually designing an open-ended planning process that results in people being able to communicate the importance of their values and the importance of what they want to say is not easy. And the complexity that's brought in because people have their own agenda who are the planners, which is what I'm getting very strongly from this, is something that I don't think is articulated enough. And so when I'm going to be helping people in the future get their voice heard, I'm going to be saying to them, let's identify what the interests of the planners are in this before we get started, so that we can get the different interests involved clear from the beginning.
It was a great experience coming here. I really enjoyed it. I thought the environmental justice perspective is really good, and it contributes a lot. Being an activist in the Transition Towns movement, I was interested by the similarities and the differences, you know, and I think the environmental justice perspective has got a lot to offer, because it's looking at the issue of kind of it's centrally targeting, critiquing racism within the provision of environmental goods, which is absent in the transition movement. You know, as you can see in Transition Brixton, there's the black and ethnic minority community has been largely marginalised. On the other hand, in the transition movement, there is a very strong central idea, which is peak oil and climate change, which I think is a big strategic idea. And what kind of concerned me a bit in the presentations was maybe taking the issue of the Olympics at face value and pinning too much faith on something which is, at best transient and at worst manipulation by populists in the political leadership, which could sidetrack people both from the climate change issue and from the issue of improving community environmental goods. So I think if we juxtapose the two ideas, there's some interesting stuff which would come out of that cocktail, and I think that's a very exciting kind of reflection.